Welcome to the Community Hotline for the community, by the community. I'm your host, Mr. Bob Fang, and today we have special guest, Ms. D. Green. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, hello. I am Deena Saunders-Green. What am I? I'm a foster parent. I'm a social worker. I am the founder and CEO of Green Pines Media.
Nice. I love it. I love it. I love it. And let's jump in right in. First topic. Let's go right into it.
Money.
Money. Money. What is money?
Man, I remember being in class one time a long time ago, and they gave this long drawn out story about like money. It's, something, a tool you use to exchange goods and services and all these things. And I'm like, okay. Money for me is just like a resource that helps you pay for things that are much needed in this world. It's not everything, but it's very helpful, and it's definitely something we need.
I love it. I love it. What is your how has your relationship with money changed from now since you were in high school?
This is going to sound really crazy, but when I was younger, I knew that I had to be careful with money because I had older family members who were horrible with their money. I'm talking like bankruptcies, credit card debt. It was kind of like, oh, I want that. I can have a credit card, or I'm just going to get it with no thought of, can you pay for it? Should you have it? So I was always really careful about money. And I've kind of followed that for the most part throughout adulthood. I was always the more responsible one. Like even being married now, I'm the more, especially early on in my marriage, I was the more responsible one. But now my husband's on board because he's like, oh, it's good to have like a savings. Like we can save up, we can wait. So it hasn't changed much, but I'm glad. It sounds terrible. I'm glad that I saw my older family members like blowing it when it came to money, so I could learn from that.
Well, do you have a particular family member that you saw that really made a big impact for you?
In a positive way or negative way?
However you
Um,
want to think it.
well, I without like, how should I say, calling them out too much, what I'll say in a roundabout way is my dad, he worked in law enforcement, right? Ever since I was like really young, that's what he did. But he was always like, had these hot side hustles. He was kind of this undercover, low key serial entrepreneur who's like, hey, I don't know anything about, the auto repair industry, but I'm going to buy an auto repair shop. And it didn't quite work out the way he wanted because he wasn't really an entrepreneur and he couldn't dedicate his time to it. So that type of stuff taught me a lot. Like, okay, if you want to own a business, you can just like kind of figure it out and do it, but you gotta have to kind of know about business. So I learned that. Um, my two older siblings, I learned a lot about not having credit card debt. And then I had an uncle who was a freelance photographer, and I was always drawn to the fact that he had this talent and was like, I'm going to use this talent to make money. I don't think he ever made that much back then, but it was just kind of interesting. I really saw or learned more about money from my friends. I went to middle school in this, I live in Long Beach, California, and I went to middle school in this really exclusive neighborhood, the El Dorado Estates. And it was kind of surrounded by a lot of people who were very well off. And just by hanging out with some of my classmates and seeing how they interacted with their parents and how they talked about money, they were like, oh yeah, I get an allowance of $2.50 a week. And I'm like, $2.50? What is that? What do you do with $2.50 a week? But again, I am a little bit older, so. But it was mainly friends is when I saw a lot of the positive things about money until I got older. Then some of my family members started to make better decisions with money, and I kind of, was like, okay, we're doing all right.
Got it. Got it. You have two money tips for the youth?
Yes. Couple of money tips. You're gonna blow some money sometimes, just know it. Maybe let your parents know, like, hey, I'm still learning. Part of learning is making mistakes, but try not to keep that mindset forever. when you get money, try to start putting something away, something. We don't want to talk percentages and stuff right now. You can figure that out later. But yeah, save, when you can, save something. Even if you get like $100 and you put like, $1 away. Of course, $10 would be better, but save, and then stop buying a lot of crappy fast food. My nephew, he gets money and his thing is, I'm going to buy a burger from every place around my house. And for him, it's great, but then he's broke again. He's like, hey, auntie, you got a job for me? Can I come and like do some repairs around your house? Which it's funny, but like fast food, it's not the way to invest your money. I'll just say that.
That kind of tells me that in the future, when he gets more money, he's going to blow it on fancier food.
Yes.
Fancier burgers. Not the $5 burgers, the $20 burger.
Yep, absolutely. But hopefully we can guide them a little bit before then. But if not, I'll know who to call when I want to, have somebody pay for dinner.
Yes. So on the topic of money, then I think it's important is I guess, what was your first job?
Ooh, wow. This is kind of embarrassing. But so I had my, what do you call it? Not under the table job, but kind of an under table job. I was a photographer's assistant for one of my uncle's friends. That didn't last too long because he creeped me out a little bit. Like, I'm like in, high school, and this adult guy's like, hey, come with me. And, it was just a weird feeling. But my official job where I had to pay taxes, I was the photographer for the Easter Bunny at Long Beach Plaza back in, I don't know, maybe 1988 or something, because I'm close to 50, by the way. Okay. So, I had some really interesting first jobs. Then I worked in like retail.
Okay, I love that. Getting in the media creative side. And what is it? And what do you do now for money?
So, this is a very interesting thing. So I am an entrepreneur now. My company is a startup. And what we basically do is we kind of bootstrapped being able to license music and art for youth who are in foster care. And what that looks like is if someone submits their artwork to us and we think it's exceptional or really, really great, we will give them a small advance and we'll license that artwork, put it on merchandise, and then we'll sell the merchandise, split the profits 50-50. With the music, it's a little bit more detailed because it costs so much money to create music the way it needs to be done professionally. So basically, we'll buy the rights to a song that our artists have created. We'll give them an advance for that. We'll develop it, and then instead of just putting it like on not Amazon. Well, I guess Amazon does have a music place, but Apple Music and Spotify and all of that, our artists can do that on their own. What we try to do is get their song into TV and film and video games for sync licensing. Right. But when we started, the pandemic hit. So it's been a bit challenging. We're still here though, which is great. But as far as making money, it's like when you're an entrepreneur, it's like sell however we can, trying to do that. But we've been really blessed in the midst of the pandemic because my husband is still working. So as the company is still, trying to generate revenue and trying to make sales, at least he can pay the bills for now. So yeah, entrepreneur, you just never know. You never know.
I love it. Have you applied for those PPP loans and all that?
Initially, we did apply for some, but we were okay. And because we had investment money and things like that. And we were like, well, this is social worker in me. If we don't need it, might as well not use it. And now, of course, I didn't know how long that would last. And then we're looking at, being in the pandemic for well over a year now. And I'm like, probably should have did this earlier. We're not struggling, but I think when it comes around again, I think there's a new round or something. We may look at applying now just to be safe, but we haven't needed it as crazy. And I hate to say we don't need the money, but I don't know. I kind of feel like there are people who need it more than we do. Companies who are going out of business and really struggling. And I just wanted to leave those funds for people who really, really needed it, if that makes sense. So might be a weird way of thinking in our capitalistic society, but you know.
That's the kind-heartedness in you. I can sense it. I can sense it.
Oh, thank you. I'm sure people are going, stupid, stupid. You should have just applied.
Let's move on to the next topic, which is education then. I think I always like to start this off is, who were you in high school?
Oh man, in high school, I was kind of the oddball Black chick that everybody was like, wanna be white girl, because I loved metal music. Metallica was one of my favorite bands. I was into what now is called cosplay. Like I always wanted to dress up like superheroes when it wasn't Halloween. So people were always looking at me weird. But once we got the internet, I'm like, there's a community of Black girl nerds out there I didn't even know existed. So yeah, that was kind of me in high school. I hung out with a lot of the what I guess would be called the oddballs and the misfits. Most of my friends were like gothic or, just back then. I don't know if they called them stoners. I guess now they might call them metalheads or something. I don't know. But yeah, I was still trying to figure out who I was in high school, honestly. And I just was like, this is what I like, so I'm gonna do it regardless of what people said.
I love that. What would you say are like two of your biggest challenges that you faced
in high school?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So my parents split up when I was in high school, like just as I was entering high school, and I was really close to my dad. And suddenly he wasn't there anymore. And I fell into this really bad depression, because this sounds crazy to even think this now, but I thought parents were little gods who knew everything. And then if your parents didn't get it or make it work, then what sense did the world make? And the fact that my parents couldn't keep it together, I was like, okay, then the world is chaos. And I was just depressed for like probably a good year. And my mom was like, all right, that's it. I'm shipping you off to live with your dad. So I was sent to my dad's house and, started to do much, much better then. But yeah, I really was clueless when I was a teenager because I thought parents were perfect, even though I had no evidence. I had evidence of the contrary, but I was like, parents know it all. They're just like holding back, I guess. I don't know.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Do you see, like, since you work with kids, do you see like a similarity of like the struggles that you went through compared to what kids go through now?
Definitely when it comes to mental health issues. And when we think mental health, a lot of times we think mental illness, which sometimes is the same things, but sometimes not. There can be young people who go through periods of depression, for example, because of a specific episode or situation, or there can be people who have like a long-term history of depression. But yeah, I mean, I saw a lot, especially teenagers, just struggling with depression, trying to figure out the world, not necessarily having the guidance that they need to help them. So I kind of felt like that, even though I did have a support system, I didn't trust it anymore, because once I realized that adults weren't perfect, I was like, yeah, let me not go to you. Let me try to figure out who I can go to, which was really bizarre. And then I realized, well, I do have, other family members. Like, let me just try talking to my parents, number one, and then talking with some like of my older uncles and aunts and stuff. Like, oh, okay, my brain was kind of off and thinking you guys knew everything. Okay, I just had to have a real conversation. Yeah.
I love that. And what about like, the education system right now? What are your thoughts? Top three opinions.
Ooh,
Good.
top things.
Yeah, top three things.
I would say a little bit of both.
Be honest, don't lie.
For sure. I would say it's a little bit of both. And I'm going to be very transparent, right? I never asked for guidance when it came to my education. It took me 15 years to get a 4-year degree because I wouldn't ask for help. I would start one major, get bored with it, drop out, change my major, start again. Like, I'd date a guy and be like, forget school, let me just hang out with this guy. Like, I was so clueless about my education. But honestly, I think I was one of those young people who needed to work a series of really terrible, low paying jobs to understand the value of an education, because I didn't get my bachelor's until after I was married, honestly. And I was like, man, I do not want to work at call centers. I don't want to do telemarketing. I don't want to do retail. I want better things, like I need to pay for my lifestyle, and this is not going to cut it. So I actually started working at a university, Cal State San Bernardino. And number one, I didn't realize how great those jobs are. They're state jobs, right? And that's benefits and unions and all kinds of great stuff. So I thought, I'll work here forever. And then I was like, oh, I can go to school and they'll like pay for part of the stuff too. So that was kind of cool. One of the other things I like to tell young people is that college does not mean you're smart at all, especially not at any level, but especially as a bachelor's degree. That just means that you know how to start and complete something 100%, and that you can structure your time well, or you're a good cheater, but please don't cheat. So a bachelor's is important, but honestly, I think it's more of a placeholder, because when you're in college, people are so forgiving. You get discounts. If you want to, call and get things done, people are like, oh, you're a student. Oh, here, let me hook you up with this. Oh, you don't need a deposit. We'll help you out. So college is important. I think everybody can do it. But realistically speaking, if you don't have the money to pay for it, it's just really, really tough, But I've met some of the, I don't want to ever call anybody stupid, but there are some people that I have met in college that I'm like, wow, you got into college? If you got into college, like anybody can literally do this. Now, once you get your master's, because I do have a master's in social work, and then just recently last year, I went to USC and got a second master's in social entrepreneurship. And, by the time you get to your master's, then it's like you're more specializing, you're mastering a topic or a certain area, and you do a lot more of, it might be an internship or on the job training types of things. So it gets a lot better, and your income, your potential for more income will definitely shoot up. And then, of course, if you get your PhD, you're like now the expert, which means that people can refer to you and be like, they're an expert in that field. But I also know some people have PhDs who really probably shouldn't do anything else or talk or leave their office. They should just keep working on that specific subject area and not do anything else. That was really mean. I'm so sorry. But yeah, it's the two things that I would think,
Got it. I love it. Do you recommend like the kids these days that they should go to college, or do you think there's a different path?
I think
as a mom,
Yeah. I think that there is definitely a different path for everyone, but I think everyone should at least try it just to see what you think. If you can afford it or find a way to get financial aid, give it a try, I mean, a lot of people hear those stories about these, tech billionaires, and they started out, they're college dropouts who went and did their thing, but at least they started in college. Or, you can get some great connections in college. And if, and sometimes in this day and age, you never know what the job situation is going to look like. And sometimes going to college, it doesn't just tell you what you may want to do, but what you don't want to do. Like I know jobs in the mathematics, so to speak, it's not for me. Like if it had to do with math, and anyway, that's why I was no longer a computer science major. Once I realized how much math it was, I was like, oh heck no, not for me. But statistics, that type of stuff I can handle. But anyway, I think everyone can do it. I think everyone should do it just to try it, take a class or two. But if it's not a good fit and there's something else that you can do that you're passionate about, definitely do that. Because the cost of an education now compared to when I was like just entering college, all those times, it's crazy. It's crazy. But, do it if you can. They should definitely do it if they can.
Got it. Love it. All right. Last topic of the day, which I feel is almost the most important topic, which is love.
Love.
What is love? What is love?
You know, that has changed so much the older that I got. I used to think love was what the movie said it was. Like when I was in middle school and high school, it's the you're somewhere and in the movie you see them, they make eye contact. And like, I thought that's what love. You got the butterflies in your stomach and your heart was doing all the crazy things. No, 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 not at all.
Disney lied.
Um, I'm sorry.
I said Disney lied.
Right. Disney lied big time. And I think it's really weird in our culture that we do this kind of serial dating type of thing. And then we like kind of get with this person and then we move on and we then keep dating over and over again. It just causes a lot of complications. Now, again, I know my thought process can be a little different sometimes, but I legit remember as like a maybe 17-year-old going, I wish we just could do courtships again. Like, or can an adult that I trust just do it for me? Because this sucks. Like all the games and the drama and all of that stuff. And that probably continued into my 20s where I'd be like, I really hate dating. Dating sucks. Because I thought it was the Disney version of dating, basically. But you know, when I met my husband, it was really funny because at the time we didn't tell anybody this, but we met online back in the day when dial-up was popular and AOL was the popular internet, service provider. And, we just started chatting. We lived in the same general area. My brother went to school with him. And so I was able to like kind of look at his yearbook picture. So he wasn't a total stranger, even though he was a stranger. But back then you just didn't tell people you met online. Right. And then we just hit it off. Like both of our dads were Marines. Both of our moms loved needlework and crocheting. And they love to cook and spoil their kids. We both have brothers named Ryan who are the same age. Like it was really weird. It's just, he's like kind of I don't know, his family just felt kind of like the white version of my family, as weird as that sounds. But yeah, so what I will say about love now is like when you're dating and just getting to know someone, that might be cool. But once you've been in a long-term relationship, like that is like real love, where I'm like, oh, love isn't all the pattering and all that stuff. It's more of a soft, safe place to fall when the rest of the world is like crazy or hostile or chaotic. For me, it's like being around that person that you're in love with. It's like all that crazy stuff just kind of falls by the wayside. Now they may irritate you a little bit, but it's a different type of irritation. You can work that irritation out. So
that's yeah. Amazing. I'm going to play a chord for that. Tell us, you seem like a super wise person. What I get that vibe, like I feel like all the goth, rocker people, they definitely they were well aware of their emotions.
Right. For sure.
And very aware of what was happening. What are two defining moments in your life and how did it impact you?
Two defining moments. So for sure, the what happened with my parents and splitting up, seeing my mom go from being married and, all of that to being a single parent and to then kind of struggling with, she wanted us to maintain the same lifestyle that we had when they were together. So she went and got another job. And I saw her just like working really hard because we were so spoiled and she just wanted us to stay spoiled, I guess. But I think one of the defining moments was that I was like, oh, whoever I'm with, we need to be on the same page when it comes to our finances, because money can be a really big problem, if it's not really dealt with in a healthy way. So that was really a defining moment, kind of watching my parents. And I remember when my husband, Terry, and I were dating, I was like, okay, let's talk about money. Well, what's your credit score? What's this? What's that? And it was like, whoa, like this chick is pretty, hardcore and pretty intense. But that was really helpful because we have not had to struggle with money that way since we've been married because, we just talked about it up front and we're really open. I mean, it's taken some work, but that was great because it's hasn't been an issue. And I think the other defining moment, which may sound a little bit sad, but my husband and I don't have biological kids. Early in our marriage, we lost a baby lost a pregnancy early on. And we were like, okay, we want to be parents. How do we do this? And so we became foster parents. And that literally changed the trajectory of both of our lives. Being a foster parent, like, that is the reason that I am now the CEO of Green Pines Media, and that everything I do is related to young adults who've left, the system, whether it's foster care, juvenile justice, children's mental health. And it's weird because, I used to know a lot about music when I was younger, but now, like, okay, I know a lot about music when I was younger, and except rap. I was never really into rap, but my brothers were part of the hip hop community. I was not part of hip hop at all. And so after becoming a social worker, and, I was really, people used to say, well, you're very corporate as a social worker, follow all the rules, whatever. I knew nothing about rap, and I'm starting this company about music, and now I'm working with rappers. I didn't even hear my first Jay-Z song until the pandemic hit. And I'm very transparent about this with the youth or the artists that we work with, because they're like, oh my gosh. But I'm open about this because they're gonna figure it out. I am a social worker. I knew social work, all the other stuff about working in the music industry. I needed advisors and partners to kind of share that with me, because a lot of the artists would say, well, my style is like, and they name off some Lil something name. I don't know who these people are. I mean, I can learn, but yeah, they'll figure it out. So anyway, I know that's kind of off topic, but yeah, being a foster parent really changed my life, and it made me see that it's okay to be vulnerable around young people who are artists and young people who are really smart, and to say, I don't have all the answers, but you know what? I'll bring the piece that I do know to this relationship. You bring the piece, we'll bring in advisors, mix it all up, and see if we can make some money with it.
That sounds so amazing. I love that. I talked to, well, before, I know you mentioned you lost a pregnancy early on, so I kind of wanted to touch on that for a minute.
Okay.
There's tons of women out there who've gone through the same thing. What's like one piece of advice for anyone going through that you think would help them?
What I will tell people, if you're going through a pregnancy loss, and I actually was to the point where I went through giving birth and all of that stuff, right? Only to have that happen. And I would say, it's going to take time. People will say ridiculously stupid things to you, and you'll probably want to punch them in the face. Like, you can try again, or, at least they went to heaven before you got to know them. Like, is that supposed to be comfort? So my advice is, people will say dumb things. It'll take time. And grieve. It's so important to grieve our losses. Whether it's the anniversary of when that day happened, or the anniversary of the potential birthday or something, grieve, and try to find a community of other, people who've been through that. So if you're a woman, try to see if you can find a community of women who have experienced a pregnancy loss or the loss of a child. And our husbands or our boyfriends or men's, the fathers need support too. That's not something that a lot of the dads talk about, but it happens to them as well. So, just kind of remember those things, and just take care of yourself as best as you can. And there is no perfect way to handle grief.
I love that. And then final topic of the day, or final question actually, is I talk to a lot of kids, and I think one of the reoccurring themes is they have a communication issue with their parents. Like, oh, I can't talk to my dad. Oh, I can't talk to my mom. I don't feel like they understand me. Da da da. What's your relationship like with your parents? I know you said your dad was better, but and then how do you build on that relationship if you're coming from there?
Yeah. Yeah, I just don't think number one, like I said, I had an unrealistic expectation of my parents. I didn't view them as human. And so I put a lot of pressure on them and what they were supposed to do, right? Once I realized that was unrealistic, and I come from an age where you just didn't talk to your parents. Kids were seen, not heard. If your parents said to do something, you didn't question it, you just did it, or, bad things could happen. Um, but I remember we went to therapy because I was going through a depression. And I remember somewhere in there, I think the therapist was like, hey, as a family, it'd be nice if you guys said things like, I love you, or, hey, can I talk with you, without, judgment or something like that. So I remember I started sharing my poetry with my dad, or more importantly, the lyrics of certain songs, because I think with young people, if they have when they have trouble communicating, because there's usually that trouble there, music is the way that a lot of young people express themselves. It's definitely how I express myself. And even in hindsight, when I think about, like, I was listening to Metallica, and this wasn't just like the nicer stuff with them in the San Francisco, orchestra or things like that. This was like, I think that album was called Ride the Lightning, and Fight Fire with Fire was I was like, I was pissed. I was really angry. And so I shared that with my dad, like, hey, listen to the lyrics of this song. This is how I'm feeling right now. And my dad really started to understand, oh, there's something else going on here. My mom, I think, that came later when I got to college. I remember I was in college in Atlanta, Georgia. For a split second, I went to Clark Atlanta University, a historically Black, what they call them, HBCU, or historically Black college and university. And my mom just popped up one day and said, hey, I'm at like the airport or something. And I was like, well, I didn't even know she was coming. And so I went and picked her up, and she's at my apartment, and I'm just there really uncomfortable, like, Mom, I love you, but I don't know what to say to you. I don't know how to talk to you. And just me saying that, she was like, well, I'm your mother. You should never struggle just to talk to me. And that started a conversation. And now my mom and I are so close, just because I admitted that I was like a little uncomfortable. I didn't know what to say to her. We had different interests, or so I thought. But yeah, just communicate as best as you can in the best way that you can. And if you think your parents are going to judge you, I would say even mention that, like, I want to share this with you, Mom or Dad, but I feel like you may judge me. I don't even know, but I want to try to share this with you. See what happens.
Got it. See what happens. Love it. Finally, just wrapping it up, do you have any, any last words? I know you shared so much. Is there anything the community can help you with? Something that you're struggling with?
Yes. Okay, so couple things with last words. Well, first, I'm going to give some advice that I think may be helpful, which is, if there's something that you're passionate about and you really want to do, and you're not really quite sure how to do it, just try your best to surround yourself with people who are doing those things, or people who are kind of where you are on your level. Like, if you both want to be in a band, but you really are terrible with your music, whatever, just get together anyway. Try to learn together. Just surrounding yourself with people who have similar interests is so helpful. And then if they are, at a higher level than you, that's okay too. I've done like internships, sometimes unpaid. I've reached out to people and just said, hey, can you mentor me? Can I peek over your shoulder? How do I learn these things? It is a great way to just kind of learn a lot more about that area that you're interested in, and just kind of, keep going up. And then as far as what the community can help with, so I haven't even announced this anywhere else for the most part. So this is kind of nice doing it on the community hotline. We are in pre-production for a documentary about what we're doing at Green Pines Media. So working with young adults between the ages of 18 and 30, we work with them older because our oldest is 32 now. And without a family, that safety net isn't there. So Green Pines Media helps artists who are a bit older, still kind of in that transition age youth population though. But yeah, we are doing a documentary, and we're going to be starting a fundraising campaign on Indiegogo. I believe it starts this month on April 19th. So I'll say follow us on @Green Pines Media on all of the interweb places, social media, Instagram. We're on TikTok. we're getting there a little bit better. Twitter, all that stuff. And then
what's the name of the at what?
It's at Green Pines Media, all one word.
Is it this one right here? I'm gonna pull it up real quick.
Yeah. Right there you go. At Green Pines Media and all of the sites. We had to finally hire like a social media management company because I'm terrible at social media and I'm busy and doing things. So they're going to start posting all that on around April 19th. We are doing something I've never done before. I've never created a film, but I'm working with some awesome fellow Trojans and a production company who's handling all of the details. And we're going to try to raise a total of $360,000, but half of that is going to licensing the music for Green Pines Media artists so they can stop having to struggle with homelessness, so they can pay their bills and have living expenses and get money into their pockets, because that is why we exist. So follow, share, donate, let people know, and yeah, we'll see how things go.
I love it. People got to eat.
Absolutely.
Give them a follow, guys. Before give Deena a follow. Thank you for joining us today. And I guess we'll see you next time, guys.